Remercier bien sûr tous nos ambassadeurs. Serge, je ne vais pas le remercier parce que quand je parle, c'est comme si Serge parlait aussi. On est ensemble dans tous ces choix, dans toutes ces opérations. Mais remercier nos ambassadeurs qui ont joué le jeu. Alors il y a Seb, Sébastien, Frédéric et Fabrice. Mais il y en a d'autres aussi. Je me rappellerai toujours de cette première soirée sur la péniche où tous les ambassadeurs sont venus. Je ne vais pas les citer. Des anciens de 77, des anciens des années 60, des anciens. C'est tout le rugby français qui a poussé derrière cette candidature. Alors on avait beaucoup de responsabilités sur les épaules. Mais on les a assumées, mais je crois que ça ne nous a jamais fait peur. Je ne sais pas si on est bon ou pas très bon, mais le combat, on aime ça. On aime aller convaincre, on aime aller gagner, on aime aller chercher des choses qui sont difficiles. Tant mieux, ça nous a souri, mais surtout, encore une fois, merci à tous ceux qui ont poussé derrière cette candidature et derrière ce dossier. Et puis au-delà de ça, c'est pour la France. Quand on dit que c'est 1 milliard de retombées économiques pour tous nos commerçants, tous nos hôteliers, que c'est 17 000 emplois qui vont être sauvés, c'est pas rien. C'est pas rien. Voilà, donc très fier de ça, parce que quand tu te lèves le matin et que tu te dis, si tu perds, c'est la France qui perd tout ça, c'est beaucoup de responsabilités. Mais on l'a fait. François ? Remercier aussi la ministre des Sports, Laura Flessel, qui n'a pas pu parce qu'elle avait programmé déjà un déplacement à l'étranger. Donc ça m'a dit qu'elle ne pourrait pas être parmi nous, mais que bien sûr elle poussait de tout cœur avec nous. Elle est venue défendre le 25 septembre notre candidature. Elle a énormément poussé fort. Voilà, c'était la représentante de l'État. Donc on était très fiers d'avoir l'État avec nous. N'oublions pas qu'ils nous ont donné une garantie conséquente pour organiser cette compétition. Bon voilà, donc c'est la réussite de tout un pays. Et après 2024, gagner 2023, je crois que ça va porter haut et fort les couleurs de la France. Question?
Bonjour, Callum Murray de Sportcal. Une question pour Monsieur Laporte. Est-ce que vous croyez encore que le processus n'était pas juste?
C'est pas le processus qui n'était pas juste. C'est certains aspects du processus que nous ne trouvions pas justes. Mais pas la globalité. C'est pour ça qu'avec Bill Beaumont et Augustine Pouchot, ils nous ont dit qu'on ferait un débriefing de ce processus, voir ce qui allait, voir ce qui n'allait pas. Mais c'est évident que certains aspects, nous les avons contestés. Alors je ne dis pas ce qui nous a fait gagner, et je remercie World Rugby encore une fois d'avoir répondu à nos courriers. Ça nous a permis de communiquer sur les incompréhensions, et ça peut-être que ça nous a aidé effectivement à l'emporter.
Hi, a question for Sebastian. Does this bode badly for the All Blacks, given what happened in 2007?
I have to put my headphone.
Okay.
T'as compris ce qu'elle a dit?
J'ai compris le début All Blacks. J'ai compris All Blacks.
Does this bode badly? Are you all good?
Yes.
Does this bode badly for the All Blacks, given what happened in 2007?
Traduis pas ce bordel.
It's not working, it's not working.
It's not working.
Qu'est-ce qu'elle a dit? Does?
Est-ce que c'est de mauvais?
Can anyone help him out?
Par rapport à quoi?
Non, je crois que il y a encore 6 ans qui nous séparent de la compétition. D'ici là, j'espère que, et je suis certain que notre équipe de France aura progressé, parce qu'aujourd'hui elle est en train de travailler, elle est sur le chemin du renouveau. Voilà, il y a des jeunes joueurs qui sont en train de sortir, des jeunes joueurs, des jeunes talents qui arrivent. Mais je crois que ce qui est arrivé au All Black en 2007 était juste un accident. Alors peut-être que si on recroise leur route en 2023, nous, Français, on aimerait que cet accident se reproduise, mais on n'en est pas encore là. Voilà, on a du temps devant nous.
Oui, question pour Monsieur Laporte ou Monsieur Hatché. Je ne sais pas si vous avez pris connaissance de la déclaration de Jury Roux il y a quelques instants. Il parle ces 15 derniers jours d'un processus opaque, à l'inverse des mois précédents. Qu'est-ce que vous inspire cette déclaration?
Écoutez, on n'est pas là pour commenter les déclarations des autres. Chacun a le droit de s'exprimer comme il le souhaite.
Richard Esco, l'équipe. Bernard, Claude, Serge, est-ce que vous avez maintenant la certitude que le report des voix, puisque vous obtenez 18 voix au premier tour, c'est-à-dire vous êtes à 2 voix de l'emporter dès le premier tour, est-ce que vous avez la certitude que le report des voix de vos alliés s'est effectué et comment est-ce que vous pouvez le savoir, vu que les bulletins sont secrets? Qu'est-ce que vous pouvez nous en dire?
On peut pas le savoir. Je ne sais pas comment ça marche, si ça fonctionne. On ne peut pas le savoir, Richard. On a travaillé depuis des mois à présenter le dossier, à présenter les points forts de notre dossier. On l'a dit, on l'a répété dans tous les pays où on est passé, l'expérience, les stades, le savoir-faire, la force économique du marché français, le soutien de l'État, incontestable, et depuis le début. Tous ces points-là, on les a présentés aux fédérations les unes après les autres. Après, la dernière semaine, ce sont les fédérations qui se sont autodéterminées en fonction de ce qu'on avait présenté longtemps à l'avance. Mais ça, on n'est pas capable de répondre à la question et je pense que les fédérations se sont autodéterminées sur ce qu'on leur avait présenté depuis 6 mois, quoi. Oui. C'est le score qui gagne, oui. OK. Merci. Ah, pardon.
Hello, my name is Mike Pierce, starving freelance rugby writer. I'm just wondering if you think today's decision will add a bit of bite to Saturday's match in Paris?
Non.
C'est pas les mêmes gens qui votent. Ceux qui sont sur le terrain n'ont pas voté. Mais c'est vrai que c'est un clin d'œil de l'histoire. C'est de pouvoir se rencontrer et très fier d'abord de les recevoir. Et nous les recevrons bien parce que, comme je vous le disais, je comprends aussi leur déception.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, spare with us one moment as we get settled. Thank you all very much for coming here today. My name is Stephen McNamara. I'm the Communications Director with the Irish Rugby Football Union. Just before we start, I'm going to introduce you to our panel today. We have Philip Brown, who's the Chief Executive of the Irish Rugby Football Union. We have Dick Spring, who is the Chairman of the Ireland 2023 Oversight Board. We have Minister Shane Ross, Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport. We have Minister Brendan Griffin, who is the Minister of State with responsibility for tourism and sport. We have Brian O'Driscoll, who is our 2023 Bid Ambassador. David Sterling, who is the Northern Ireland Chief Civil Servant. And we have Philip Orr, who is the President of the Irish Rugby Football Union. We are going to start off, I believe, with a few words from Philip Brown, the Chief Executive.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. I'd like to thank all who participated in this process. And I'd particularly like to thank those who supported Ireland in the vote today. For almost 6 years, we focused passionately on bringing a Rugby World Cup to Ireland in 2023. In that time, we developed a world-class proposition which reflected positively on Ireland and saw us formally acknowledged as a destination well capable of hosting a superb Rugby World Cup. It's not to be. Our race is now run, and today belongs to France. They have our warmest congratulations and every best wish for a magnificent Rugby World Cup in 2023.
Thanks very much, Philip. We'll now open it up to the floor. We do have about 15 minutes, I believe, for this, so we'll start off with the first question, if we can. If you wouldn't just mind directing the question, just say who you're directing the question to, maybe, as well, if there's a particular person you want to direct it to.
Callum Murray from Sport Cal. There were some reports of possible legal action by the Irish bid over the recommendation and the process by which the recommendation was reached. Can you confirm that you did look at that possibility, and what was the outcome?
It was never contemplated at all, to be quite honest with you, and certainly that wouldn't be our style at all.
Hi, Mick Cleary, Daily Telegraph. Philip, what is your assessment of the process of which you've just been a part? Do you think it's actually worth going through, given that the outcome has been as it is, both in with your own regard, but the fact primarily that South Africa were overturned on today's vote?
I truly believe that World Rugby and Rugby World Cup put a good process in place. It was transparent for the last 2 years. Everyone knew where they stood. I think if we had any difficulty, the difficulty was with the evaluation report, where we felt that it was lacking in certain areas in terms of exactness and in terms of detail and in terms of due diligence.
Similar question, Philip. The South African statement said that despite the transparency of the first 2 years, which you mentioned, the last 2 weeks have been entirely opaque. Would you care to comment on that, please?
Not particularly. For the last 2 weeks, we've been focused on our own challenges. Yes, there's been a lot of hard work done over the last 2 weeks by a lot of people, particularly Pat Whelan and John O'Driscoll. So really, I haven't had a chance to really think too much about the last 2 weeks.
I have a question for Dick Spring, if that's okay. Dick Spring, as a retired politician, you'd be used to counting the votes after an election. Do you know yet who voted for Ireland and who didn't vote for Ireland?
No, I don't. And yes, I would be used to counting votes. But we don't know actually who voted for or against at this point in time.
Can I just ask a quick supplementary? If you do the maths, if England, Scotland and Wales had all voted for Ireland, you would have had at least 9 votes. So some of your nearest neighbours didn't vote for you. How do you feel about that?
We'd feel very disappointed, obviously, not getting support from some of our nearest neighbours. And that's a fact of life. We would have hoped for solidarity within the home unions.
I can add to that. To be fair to Scotland, they've said consistently that they wanted to wait until the evaluation report was produced, and they also have consistently said that they would go with the bid that produced the greatest amount of revenue for Rugby World Cup. And in terms of Wales, the situation was, again, they wanted to see what the evaluation report was like, what the outcome of that was, and then obviously I think they felt duty-bound and honour-bound to support Gareth Davies, who was on the board of Rugby World Cup and part of the evaluation process. So, I can understand where they're coming from.
Matt McGeehan from the Press Association. Philip, how concerned are you that this kind of process is all about the money? It's all about the money that's generated for World Rugby rather than the spectacle and the occasion that can be put on?
That's almost a question that needs to be addressed to Rugby World Cup as to what is their vision for the tournament. We had a vision for the tournament. I think a lot of people liked our vision for the tournament, but it obviously didn't accord with Rugby World Cup's vision.
Hi, Simon Collings from Haters Press Agency. Philip, I know it's obviously quite raw now, but has this process put you off Ireland going to bid for a World Cup again?
Really, it's much too soon to be thinking about that. I think what we need to do is regroup, sit down, and in the cold light of day, in a week or two or a month or two, just see exactly where we stand and maybe could we have done anything better. To be honest, I don't think we could have done anything more than we did. I think I have to congratulate our governments in the north of Ireland and in the Republic of Ireland, and indeed the government here in the UK, who gave us huge support. They did everything that they could, and it's been a good experience, I think, for our administrations, both north and south, in working together on a project that has no agendas at all.
Philip, given the economic advantage that countries like France and England have, do you think that countries like Ireland and New Zealand will be pushed out of future bids, given the outcome of this host announcement?
That goes back to the previous question, which is World Rugby and Rugby World Cup need to decide what sort of a tournament do they want. And yes, of course, there's the imperative, the commercial imperative of money, but it shouldn't be everything. Ireland has, why should we not have a tournament? We can run a tournament perfectly well, and a world-class tournament, and we can produce significant revenues, and we showed that we could produce significant revenues for Rugby World Cup. But listen, that's a question that really needs to be directed at World Rugby.
And just a question, sorry for my English. In your opinion, what is the points of the program who explain that France won thanks to the last weeks? Because the probability were strongest for South Africa, and France at the finish had won. How could you explain that? Why?
Sorry, I couldn't quite get that.
It's about the process, and if I understand you, it's about the process. So it's about the process, and over the last 2 weeks, it's been won by France despite the process. Is that an issue?
Well, I suppose if you look at the raw facts are that there was 1/3 of the votes were voted in favour of the recommendation, and I suppose that speaks for itself.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, we'll wrap it at that. Philip Brown will do
Mark Alexander, President of South African Rugby, and Yuri Roux, the CEO. And this is John Cardinelli, who's got the first question.
Yuri, just your feelings at the moment, and how does this decision reflect on World Rugby's process?
Yeah, obviously gutted and disappointment all around. Probably more disappointed for the country, as there was some heightened expectation, given that we were the preferred bidder. But in the end, you know, we all agreed on a process, and part of that process was that there was going to be a blind vote at the end, and we had an opportunity to disagree with that process, which we didn't. We all voted for it, and you know, like a rugby match, if you lose, you've got to take it on the chin and get up and just move on. It's obviously very disappointing, but that's the result. There was people that had an option and they had an opinion, and they actually exercised that option and opinion, and we've got to respect them for that.
Yuri, I understand you accept the decision, but is there not an element to this that this is a victory for rugby politics rather than rugby? I mean, clearly there are blocks here at play.
Well, I think, you know, I think it would be, you know, it would be very naive to think that there's not blocks to play. I mean, guys, we all live in the real world. We tried our best. We put our best foot forward, and people had a vote, and they had an option, and they actually just executed that. In the end, I cannot fault World Rugby for the process that we followed up until now. If you ask anybody that worked with us in the bid committee, the process was pretty transparent. In actual fact, was very transparent. It was a good process to be part of. We learned a lot, and we did our best. In the end, both Mark and myself are members of council, and we have to trust the people around the table, and that they make the right decision in their opinions and within their mandates to make a decision which is in the best interest of World Rugby. France has hosted a very successful World Cup previously. If you read the report, they had a very strong bid. They've got a good financial proposition, they've got good stadiums, and they've got good infrastructure. So we were obviously hopeful, given the fact that we preferred bidder, but they will host a great World Cup, and maybe the only silver lining for us is the last time we played there in a World Cup, we won it, and maybe we'll win it again in 2023. Despite last Saturday's result, I'm still trying to figure out which is the worst, last Saturday's result or you know, or today. But today has got a material effect on our country. You know, we're a very, very proud country, and that's why we're so disappointed. This would have been great for our country, would have been great for our sport. When the FIFA World Cup was there in 2010, we had more than 20% uptake in football, and we would have had the same, I think, here. I'm not even talking about economic influx, and I'm not even talking about the romantic part of having a World Cup in your country. So, yeah, disappointed.
In a statement, you mentioned that the process was entirely opaque for the last 2 weeks. Can you just expand upon that in terms of what your grievance is, basically, please?
I think for the last 15 months, the process was very transparent and vigorous. But the last 2 weeks were very opaque. You know, one looks at how the thing was dealt. There was a set of rules. We abided by those rules up till today. Certain rules were broken during that process, which we upset about. This is the first time ever World Rugby has made a recommendation and they voted against it. So I think going forward, we will, as World Rugby, we'll need to modify that process to make sure that the process works better for rugby. You know, the only thing we got left to do is to apologize to the South Africans by creating expectations. We apologize to our country. We congratulate France for winning the bid, but the process needs to be refined as we go along. It's like all things in rugby. We keep on changing the scrum rule. Maybe we'll get it right next time around. Yes, and it's over. You know, we've lost the game, and then we'll move on.
Mark, you just said the set of rules were broken. Can you be more specific, please?
There was a protocol around the way we engage, a code of conduct, and I think it points that there are certain times during the last 2 weeks of the engagement, we never stuck to those rules, and we've never responded to any of the allegations made thus far, and World Rugby responded to that, and so it's done and dusted.
Stephen?
Mark, sorry, I'm just going to ask you for more clarifications, because you said a code of conduct, in the way you engage. There was talk about lobbying and so on in the press, but what exactly do you mean? And what were these rules that you felt were broken?
I don't go into details about what the World Rugby rules are, but you can find it on the website, so you can look at the rules. One of the things is the way we communicate with each other. Now, at no point in time did South African Rugby attack any of the other bidders throughout the process. And you can go and read the articles, and you can find those things on the websites and stuff. But it's disappointing that we run a race and they set the rules, and we have to stick to those rules. But we've moved on now. The bid's over, and we'll go back and fight enough for another day.
Mick Cleary from The Telegraph. Mark, do you think this evaluation report process is a complete waste of time and shouldn't be done again if it's going to be overturned so quickly?
I think it's a good process, firstly, because at least you got professionals looking at your technical aspects of your value proposition. I think it's a good thing. It's a process from there. I mean, we will make recommendations to World Rugby going forward, and we will work with World Rugby to refine the process.
This is my questions to Yuri Ruth, Crystal Arnold from Supersport. Is there anything more that you could have done in this process, do you think?
I absolutely don't think so. The reality is we put forward a good bid, which independent people agreed on. So for the rest of the process, we can only trust that other people see it the same way, which they didn't, and that we got to live with that. We really worked really hard on this over an 18-month period. I think anybody that ever gets to read our document will see that it's a brilliant document. And we just put forward the facts, and in the end, people just disagreed with that and decided somebody else can do it better than we can. So no, absolutely not. I don't think we could do anything different.
Yuri, do you know if basically who supported you? Did your SANZAAR partners come to the party in terms of their support?
Well, the reality is I mean, we're not stupid. We were able to put that bid together, so I think we can count votes as well. But it's not about that. It's about council members exercising their right that they have, and we're not vindictive. We agree to this process, and you can't agree to the process and then go cry foul afterwards. You stick to the process, you honor the process, and you walk away with integrity and dignity, even if you've lost. If you don't do that, you don't belong around the table, and you don't belong where we're sitting at the moment. So we won't be counting the votes. We won't be phoning anybody. We will do the honourable thing, like we've already done, and say sorry to Ireland, our fellow candidates. We ran a good race. And in their own right, had the right to respond to certain things which they didn't agree with. And we had that right as well. We just chose not to do it, and that's fine. And congratulations to France. We're a proud sport, and we shouldn't let things like this take anything away from our sport. We love the sport, we love the game, and we need to fight on like real unions and steer away from anything that sounds like crying foul or anything else. We'll take it on the chin and we'll move on.
Firstly, commiserations, and also you mentioned, Mark, that this was the first time a recommendation had been voted against. Did you 100% think that you had this? Did you cash the cheque, so to speak?
I think we raised the expectations back home that once the recommendation was put forward, we were at least 99% there. But That's how rugby is. Sometimes you play till the 79th minute and you lose the game. That's what we did.
Is there any more questions we got to
In fairness,
answer?
I think we were into injury time actually, but.
Yuri, what about the future? Are you guys in it again? What's the?
It's not my decision. That's a union decision, and when it comes around the next time, they'll probably make the decision. If you ask me personally, absolutely. You can't win it if you're not in it. It's very simple. It's like the lottery. Although it feels like a lottery now as well. My ticket was obviously the wrong numbers, but no. If it depends on me, absolutely. We're a proud country. We want to showcase our country to the rest of the world. We've got an absolutely fantastic track record in terms of delivering major events. Like the country we're sitting in at the moment, and we'll try again. We have to do it not only for ourselves, but for our union and for everybody else that's sitting back in South Africa and that are bitterly disappointed at the moment. At some stage, we need to bring it back, and hopefully, 2027. I don't know whether Mark and myself will still be around. Mark purely out of age, and I maybe might go do something different. But the reality is we need to try again.
World Cup would have been a bit of a shot in the arm for South African rugby, with the Springboks not doing so well and players leaving the country. How is the health of the union now after this result?
Are you suggesting we're not doing well? Based on what? I'm just kidding. The reality is, as I said, I started off is when you host the World Cup, there's an aspirational platform that you create through that. On top of that, you've got a financial platform that is brilliant, and that creates enough revenue so that you can further your development plans, maybe stem the outflow of players that we have against the euro and the pound and the yen, and as it sounds, very soon against the dollar as well. And all of those are things that we now have to face in a different way, But luckily, we do have the British and Irish Lions. Coming up very soon, and hopefully that platform will create some new avenues and some new revenues, and maybe create the same type of hype as it did in New Zealand this year. We all saw that, and we're really looking forward to that.
Last question, anywhere? Thank you.
Lady in the dress here last time. Okay. So I presume.
Yeah, be fine. Be fine.
Do you want your mic cover on again? Or?
Yes.